Yeah, it's taking a while.
Yeah, my internet at home has basically been worthless. Like normally with this phone and stuff, like
It is now. I think I hear myself an echo. I find it. You got to figure out where it is. And if you don't go there, and as soon as I find the browser window, live, it's not showing it to me. All I know in that web page, if I don't get to it quick and turn off, oh man, it's not there either. So I can't even really give anybody a link to our stream right now. Man, that stinks.
well, then let's probably start it over since nobody's going to be on it.
Yeah, well, hang on a second, because the body electric, here it is. I think I found it. See if anybody's in there. Hey guys, you're probably watching. Oh man, if you guys heard any of that, I found the web page. All right, let's roll. Good. Sound check.
Our next trick, we shall screw in a light bulb.
Our next trick. All right, I got a one up, James from Michael. All right, great. And then this thing is muted, right? Now it is. I'm gonna hit pop out chat. And I'm not gonna waste, because that took so long. Well, I should at least, I gotta post it to.
I know. I love you too. I know.
What's that dog's name?
Tyr. He's the mighty Tyr. Okay, you guys try and talk. I know.
All right, guys, thanks for waiting. Sorry it's taking a long time. I would say I'm getting better at this, but actually it seems like I've gotten worse. But I bet it's just like a double bounce thing where I'm jumping into the ropes from the other side, getting ready to bounce back and into the center of the ring with an immense positive force. And that's probably what's happening. And yeah, we brought Odin back, Benjamin. How's it going, Ben?
Fantastic, brother. Fantastic. It's always, anytime I'm talking with you, it's just fire.
Oh man, I could not agree more. I needed your magic today. I just pretended like it was because I wanted everyone else to hear it. I just kind of wanted to be in your vibe because there's just some crazy stuff. Black magic, man, is dripping from the walls and the ceilings, right?
Yes. They've all the pieces are in place. The timing is getting right. They're getting ready to spark everything off. It's this, believe it or not, this is the calm before the storm, people.
Yep. You're absolutely right. I said that a week or two ago. I mentioned that now's when Trump's going to come in and just pour sweet honey down everybody's throats. It's going to bribe you with money, bribe you with whatever it takes to push this through. I also want to say that I predicted that Trump would come down with COVID virus and it would get really bad. And although I was wrong on that, I would like some props because instead they did it with the Prime Minister of UK, the Boris dude. So I think I had the play right. It was just the wrong company or corporation.
This is a world stage we're dealing with at this point. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of actors. So I'm glad that someone did, in fact, run that script because it does show you just how predictable this is. I tell you, one of the hardest things about doing this is that sometimes it's so obvious. You really, I'm constantly second guessing myself, going, well, wait a minute, they wouldn't be that stupid. And it's not even that they're stupid, it's that they're dealing with such a large populace that the blanket net of propaganda has to be suitable for every single person in the tank, or else it's not going to be a good net. So when they pull off this psyop stuff, it kind of has to be able to have the most vibration where it hits the most amount of people. And this is a perfect storm, man. This virus is a perfect storm. I cannot think of a better analogy of the play of hunting for the witch. You know, if you look back in history, whenever you would search a village for a witch, it would always go down exactly like to the T, just like COVID-19 is going down right now.
No matter what, the witch always died. No matter what.
Yeah. Regardless of if there was one, if not, there was. In fact, it was purely based on the appetite of the village. The
Yep.
number of witches burned was completely an equation of how many people let it happen to them and how many people wanted to keep hunting. It was a flavor of the day. It's a special of the day. If you've got salmon in your special, you're gonna sell as many as people want, and then you're gonna stop. And that's what's gonna determine what the menu is.
And then let's also keep in mind, folks, that when this was going on, this was an excellent way to get rid of anybody you didn't like. As soon as this hysteria started, well, you take exactly this analogy. Well, if I don't like Bob over here, well, Bob, I think, has been sacrificing things to the devil at night. I seen it. I've
I
been
saw
hearing
it too.
strange sounds from over there. I got a calf that died.
It
Like,
was the way my wife looked at him. She thought he was cute. Ever since then, I've noticed that he's the devil, man. That guy is bad news.
you bet. And that's all it takes. And now all of a sudden you're drawn into that extreme force. You've got to imagine that basically like a meteor, the way that they talk about the way the meteors have rocks that are all in their tail and creates an entire tail. That's basically what you're becoming is one of those rocks that's just getting drug into that stream.
Yep. In fact, it sets a vibe. I've been calling it weaponized narcissism, but it affects everyone. It doesn't matter, even if you're healthy, it affects you because what it really is an electrical pulse that is sent out that gives everyone its go time. There's a killer on the road, and basically everyone in the dog park, meaning us, are going to have a heightened sense of awareness, which is going to come with um, uh, we're going to drop our guards. I mean, we're going to raise our guards up more. We're going to actually cut off a little bit of our empathy, and we're going to go into survival mode. And when you hit survival mode, that is actually a trigger for the narcissism. You have to understand that there's maybe 65% of us is dormantly controlled by shame and fame. And because they're controlled purely by shame and fame, they are able to be weaponized either with shame or with fame. And when you have a tremor that hits into the world that's a new fad or something that's really strong, all the weaponized narcissism will emerge because it will become a chronically profitable event for people. And that's what you're seeing happening right now. You've got, I've got a girl I went to high school with, and she has an empty home. The husband that she has at home is empty. He's not a man right now. And because of that, she's yelling out the window demanding that everyone stay the fuck inside and insisting that if you guys don't fucking listen, we're all going to be screwed, and basically just hysterically freaking out on everyone in the world because she doesn't have the ability to ground. She doesn't have her own sense of safety. This is how the witch works. This is how you inject the spell of the witch. It's an electrical impulse, like a syringe that's stabbed into someone's egoic field, and it causes it to spread. It causes it to take off. Benjamin, you got anything on that?
So before what you said was perfect. So before we go any further on that, well, that brings us right to the title of the book or the podcast, um, which is the electric body. There's a reason that these electrical events and why you describe them as electric and why that affects us. So as an alchemist, if I break down your body and I was to take James died, and I burnt it, and I went and I performed alchemy on him just like I did with a plant. I would find 12 levels of oil 12 levels of salt, and then the 12 levels of earth, the carbon, water, and cellular material in between. So the carbon is more on the ether side, and the cellular material is more on the salt side. That's dense on that. So now when you're looking at your body, the oil is basically the receiver, or the thing that makes the flow possible. And the salt is what's holding your charge. Now, we're basically just like a battery. There's a cathode, an anode, a salt bridge, and a solution. So the charge passes through the solution, holds inside the salt bridges, and travels in between the cathode and anode. We are absolutely no different. Them 12 cellular salts that your body is literally built on, they are piezoelectric. They carry charge. One of James's followers posted a video immediately where they took distilled water and put a cathode and anode in it, and it didn't do anything. And then as soon as you put salt in it, now charge passes through it. So understand that this is how your body is built. And so when we talk about your field, your auric field, your egoic field, no matter what we're talking about at that point then is the radiation given off by an electrical charge. Your entire body is running off of electrical charges, and it gives off radiation just like any other electrical charge. If you walk up to the transformer that's transforming the power for your block, and you start getting close to it, you can literally feel the radiant energy just screaming off of that thing. Well, you aren't powering up an entire block, but you're powering up the human body. So while your auric field or your electric field or your egoic field, no matter how you want to term and word this, is just the electrical impulses and the radiation that you're giving off. And that's going to be given off from your 12 cellular salts, which are crystals. So again, when we're talking about any kind of a crystal, one of the ways that you can determine what kind of crystal it is taking a Geiger counter and seeing what kind of radiation that thing gives off. Every kind of crystal gives off a different radiation. It's one of the easiest ways to tell a real emerald.
Wow, man, that's sweet. I didn't know that.
Cool. So this is what we're talking about. And even when you're talking about when the people in the metaphysical world, they aren't bringing a lot of science to it a lot of times, but they still have the right idea. You do have an aura and you have chakra centers. Your different organs hold different amounts of the different salts, with your liver being super salty, which is part of why they used to say that was the seat of your soul, where your soul is your salt side, your spirit is your ether side. So things come through the ether, the feminine, that's where the change is. And that's where the feminine always opens things up, and it goes opens up the salt side. And that's where your charge is. Information, power, everything. It all comes down to just being a charge. That's how James and I are seeing each other. This is being turned into a signal and shot across the world, and your computer or phone or whatever is decoding it and displaying it in a manner that you can see with your eyes and hear with your ears. But all we're talking about the entire time was electrical signals and varying rates of it.
Right. Energy, frequency, and vibration. Oscillation.
Absolutely.
I'd like to show something now on that, because right now most of us are concerned, or we're talking about technologies that have the word G next to them. 2G is when we started all this, but I want us to go even lower, because I can prove this without you having to imagine ultraviolet microwave radiation. It's actually something is even more visible, and this is an example of that. This right here, I'm about to show you an example of electromagnetic poison emanating out from a speaker, and that poison is acting on a human being, And it looks just like this. Wait a minute, sorry. Can you guys see a video? Actually, I'm asking you, but
I do see a video, James. I do, anyways. It says maintain social distancing. CBS News.
that's a drone. That is the anti COVID 19 volunteer drone task force out on the side of the river in New York as people are walking. Someone has decided, in order to make the community safe, that he's going to rig up a PA system to his drone and yell at people as they're out trying to enjoy themselves, demanding that they follow the 6 foot rule between each other. That is an energy, a frequency, and a vibration. And if you were out there trying to enjoy your walk along the riverfront, you've been spoiled by a virus. You've been hit by an electromagnetic form of poison that will affect your immune system. What that is someone telling you that all humans are dirty and infected, and that you will be infected too if you're not careful. There is a powerful, powerful form of electromagnetic poisoning that occurs through the eyes and through the ears. What we listen to, what we see, the propaganda all around us is precisely what's been responsible for what's happening right now. That propaganda is a form of radiation. It's a radiation that has a deep, deep virus built into it. And that deep virus is fear and lies. It's the witchfinder virus. It's the virus that's been with us for thousands and thousands of years, but it just keeps getting evolved. It keeps becoming more and more advanced. And even though we certainly should be concerned with the electromagnetic frequencies around us, it's important that you understand that just by walking into the grocery store and being encountered by a bunch of people that are walking around with masks on, that is a form of electromagnetic poisoning. That creates a field state in you where you now are concerned and paranoid that you might get sick. And when you become concerned and paranoid that you might get sick, that is a change in your electrical field. Your electrical defense field is now affected by that. And because of that, this is another form of what we're talking about. So before we even get into anything else, it's proof that the body electric is susceptible to disease through propaganda. And when I say propaganda, I mean the literal term propaganda because it works both ways. If there was a drone out on the side of the river that was flying by, and instead of saying, stop, maintain 6 foot distance, if it instead said, hey, you there, hug someone, I dare you. I dare you to hug the next person that walks by. That would be another form of electromagnetic propaganda that would cause a field state change in you. So I want us to realize that the frequencies that are all around us not only affect our electrical plane, our electrical field, but that you can actually see it. You can literally look at it. You can see an electrical field around a sign that says COVID-19. When you look at a sign that says you must socially distance from COVID-19, you are looking at an electrical field of propaganda that is going to be detectable as far as you can read it. I hope that makes sense, guys. It's so crucial because I think if you could start to see it that way, you're going to be able to transmute the power of it much more effectively. Again, you can take that propaganda that instead of them yelling at you, it could be used in your favor to do something else. It's all about learning to recognize where this energy is coming from and learning how to alchemize it, learning how to find a way to transmute it, to change it over. Any thoughts on that, Ben?
Sorry. um, absolutely. So let's put some science behind this. Dr. Emoto did experiments where no matter whether it was I said a word to the water, I put a picture of something in front of the water, If it was positive, it would pick up positive vibrations and cymatically transfer those. So when the plant or when the water was flash froze, it would make very pretty geometric if it was positive. If it was negative, it would then transfer into the water and create a negative. So this immediately tells you that whether it's being visual, like James just said, there's an electrical field that's happening that transfers. That transfer always happens through fluid. So when they're blasting these sounds at you, and this brings me to an experiment, which this is a very personal subject for me. Okay. So when Emoto did his work, when he was actually putting them external inputs in there, the first thing he had to do was distill the water. Distilling it removes the cellular salts or the salts out of it. So before that, when he would flash freeze the water with the salts in it, it would make all kinds of different formations because the salt was holding a memory. Once he distilled it, it would always make a pentagon. So at that point, he started putting external input into it, and the water would pick up that external input, whether it was whether it was visual, audible, whatever, it would pick that up. And then he would flash freeze it, and then it would show it. So now this brings us back to the salts. The salts is a long-term memory. That is like your hard drive, and your body is full of them. So how long, and you've got 12 cell salts. Each of those cell salts is different in its order of stability. With number one, where your number one chakra, your densest root is going to be your most stable salt, the hardest to open, the hardest to overwrite. Your number 12 salt, that's going to be the easiest to overwrite. So as they're blasting these signals at you, how long and at what kind of an intensity before that starts actually writing into your salts and carrying in and changing your body? If you take a crystal, the way crystals form out in nature is inside a hollow, there's typically a drip or a flood of fluid and creating a humidity. So inside there, now quartz is an easy example, exists everywhere on the planet. The majority of it is made out of, the majority of this plane is made of quartz, for crystals. Now, if there's no other vibration in that little pocket, it will form into a perfect plutonic solid. But if you start throwing vibrations at that crystal, it will start changing it, and it will no longer form into that perfect plutonic solid that the epitome of that crystal would have formed. It changes it. You have 12 cellular crystal salts in your body. The vibrations that they are blasting at your body are affecting those crystals and the way your body forms. Flat and simple.
Oh yeah, man. I on that exact same note, um, the I wanted to bring up a chart here,
They
and
also used to have a really neat device called a phonotogram, where you could take words and it looked like a record player in reverse, where the wide spout was down, and you would yell into the small end, and it would catch whatever sound you made and make a cymatic pattern or a vibration. Just because that's not been transferred into a visual or transferred into a audible on that vibration doesn't mean it's not the exact same thing. This is how, as an alchemist, when we're talking about that the different luminaries or planets or whatever you would want to call them, um, that they are certain metals. Because if I take gold and I speed it up, it is going to turn the light of the sun. If I take silver and speed it up and make its cells vibrate super fast until they turn into light, it will be the light of the moon. The same vibration. And when it slows back down, because you can do that, you can slow it back down and contain it, it will turn back into silver. At some point, we need to understand that everything, that the word couch could actually be a couch if it became a dense enough vibration.
Wow. That's really heavy. Like literally, like literally,
Right.
that's really heavy, man. Damn. I guess the more, wow. So like maybe the more, okay. So when you're on the outer aura of couch, it's a word, and the vibration is there, but it's not quite in tune. Like it's almost, but it's not quite. It's in tune enough to where you recognize it as being the auric field of couch. And as you move into the
Yes.
center, that oscillation is perfected. It is no different than tuning a guitar string. You are tuning it into the perfect vibration of couch. And as you do that, you end up with an object that the most amount of people automatically will recognize and value as the perfect couch that would bring them the most joy that a couch could bring them would be the very center of that couch. So in that
Yes.
way, gold, the sun is the nucleus of whatever that word is, light. I don't even know what to call it. It's fascinating. Let's call it Aslan just for a second, okay? So the sun is the center of Aslan. The gold is like the outer edge of Aslan, and then the word gold is the reflection of Aslan, like billions of miles away.
Well, and the word is actually faster than. So some people don't realize because of oscillation, sound actually travels faster than light. And actually, even the Christians had this right. It's, he said, let there be light. There was sound, slowed down to light, oscillates back down to sound again, back and forth, until eventually it becomes dense enough and thick enough to be something you're capable of touching and grabbing. This isn't a hard concept. If you take steam, steam is thicker than something moving faster than steam. If it's faster than steam, you can't even touch it. It slows down to steam. It becomes you kind of can feel it. It slows down to actual water droplets. You can definitely feel it. It slows down to ice. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah, this is all we're talking about. Only we're talking about them on above. This is alchemist world right here, baby. As above, so below. Everything is the same, but we're just talking about speeds of vibration and then understanding the things like oscillation, the 7 hermetic rules, that everything's got a masculine and a feminine, a cathode and an anode, that everything has oscillations, the back and forth or the pendulum swing, that everything works the same because at the end of it, everything is just energy. Even when you squeeze that crystal, which was the densest, most solid thing on the planet, in its epitome, and you squeezed it, what did it turn into? Energy, piezoelectrics. So you just turned it into something else. Now, on the same token, on the etheric side, when it goes fast enough, it goes into plasma, energy. So this is how, as an alchemist, at the end of it, I merged the salt and the oil and realized that they are the same thing. Now they are the phoenix because now I've just went energy and energy.
Gotcha. And of course, the phoenix requires a sacrifice.
Yep.
And in fact, it physically couldn't be a phoenix if it didn't have that. And it's very clear that Trump slaughtered the bull. This is Mithras basically gutting the bull in public, which is the bull market, the markets that we have around us. Predicted in 1988 on the cover of The Economist, it literally shows you an eagle that's being transformed into a phoenix but only on top of a fire of burning money. And when you look closer at that painting, you'll see that it's actually the Chinese currency that's burning, but the American currency is not. And rising up out of that is the phoenix, this new bird. And launched on that bird was an emblem on his chest that had the digital 01. Um, and that also, though, was a date, 1010. And that very same year, 33 years after the publish of that, on 1010, the market dropped to the boiling temperature of sulfur. Exactly 700, I believe it's 782 points. It dropped exactly to that level. And when I saw that, I couldn't help but think this has to be some kind of alchemical spell, and that they are using this way to promote it and propel it. And as we look at what's happening right now all around us, it's really hard to say, James, you were wrong, that you're that no, that wasn't happening at all, because that's literally what we're living through right now. And I think really the future of what we're talking about is much like those crystals. The oscillations of this dissonance all around us is going to directly determine the outcome of what's actually going to happen to us. What I mean by that is the more of us that are in denial that something's happening. Hey, can you mute Ben? Can you mute?
Yeah.
Um, the more of us that are in denial about what's happening, the more we're going to be able to actually, I'm sorry, the more we're in denial about what's happening, the less we're going to be able to transmute what's happening. The more we see what's happening, the more you're able to transmute that vibration and actually use it to your advantage. This is not even an attack. This is actually an opportunity. It's so crucial you understand that, guys. This is not an attack. This is an opportunity. It will become an attack if we do not recognize it as an opportunity. This is why I get pissed off when people talk shit about fear, because fear is adrenaline. It's potential to do something. It's a potential to commit alchemy. And if you're going to say fear is the enemy, what you're literally doing is before adrenaline shows up at the door, you are afraid of it and you're looking out for it. And the moment you see it, you're going to say, well, fuck that. And so you've already lost the battle before you've even put on your sword or your scabbard or whatever else. You've already lost. So this is not an attack. This is a freaking opportunity, and it's a huge opportunity. Jennifer knows it. It's huge. That's how big it is. And everything that you do right now around you is showing that. That's why I read earlier someone was concerned about COVID 19. It's like, oh, every time I see COVID 19, it drains me. No. Every time you see COVID 19, you're seeing raw magic working in the world. And the fact that you're seeing magic in the world should give you fucking goosebumps and make you giddy. Even though it's black magic, it's showing you what you've always known as a kid, what you've always understood the world to be about. But you've been asleep. Because when you turned 11 to 13, you started getting pimples in your face. You got really fucking sad because you lost your childhood, because you congealed. The zeitgeist made you congeal with their vibrations. Their propaganda is an acoustic sound of poison that made you stick. It paced you in such a way to where you conformed into a gelatinous jelly. You turned into a version of what they're calling them. Literally man bear pig. We've been bred to be man bear pig, this kind of like walking hideous nothingness that doesn't really have its own identity. It's more of just a reflection of everything else. That's why I'm saying this is an opportunity. The next 30 days are opportunity. It's a cauldron's here. All the elements are here. It's time to alchemize it. Ben?
So basically, what we're doing is we're kind of playing a game of tetherball, and they're the they're the dark magicians, or I don't really use that reference, but they're doing what we don't want them to do. We don't want that side to do this, and they've got the ball swinging. So the first thing as an alchemist is understanding that you don't get caught. Is the first thing you learn to do is don't get caught in these vibrations. When another vibration hits you, you stop and look at that vibration for what it is. You don't get drawn into it. Then, and what we're talking about, then now you have power. Now you can do something. You're not caught in the whirlwind getting drugged with it. You're able to stand in the center of the whirlwind and look at the pieces as they're going around you and start grabbing and moving what's useful. Because as James was explaining, in a world that's stable, you can't move things. It's hard to change when something's nice and stable. But right now, we're in chaos. We are in the whirlwind. We can change things. Don't let them drag you into their vibration. That's what they're trying to do, is create that reality by putting that vibration out and dragging everybody into it. So first order of business is stop. Say, no, I'm not dragging into this. Now at that point, you can make a plan and decide to smack that ball back the other way and start getting people to help you push that. That's the goal here. This is our reality is very fluid and it can change, and people don't understand. The thing is like any cell, the majority of the cells is what's going to be what writes it. So whatever the most has the most energy is going to be what you're going to notice the most. That's just a fact. And so if we let them drag us into their vibration, even if we're trying to be the anode to it and countering it. So as James's humanity is not a virus, we're not fighting their story. You need to put your energy back into humanity. For all that they're doing this and trying to make us bad, don't go fighting the COVID. Don't go fighting their story and helping propagate it. Just start making a different world. Build your world. Start bringing in the people, because the ones that are caught in that vibration, they're going to be real hard to pull out. Don't distract yourself with that. Absolutely, we need to try and help them, but that should not be your main focus. Your main focus needs to be changing your world right here, right now. If James and I lived in a room and James lived like a pig and I did not saying this happens at all, and actually I don't live clean, so this is not, some kind of personal example. But if James lived like a pig and I did not, and I wanted my world to be different than that, the first thing I would do is start keeping that up. And then when James came in and started leaving messes, like, James, do you see how that's making the living room? This was nice in here before, and now you're shittying it all up. Why you keep doing that, man? Then you can start bringing them into your vibration. Don't just start screaming at him, because that's what most people are going to do. Is James, you're a pig. Now let's argue about this, and nothing happens. And actually the situation gets worse. You've now added to what you were trying to make better. Instead, start living what you want to live. Drag those other people. Put out the vibration that you want. Don't let theirs be the sole vibration. Stop. Don't be part of theirs and make your own.
Yep. In fact, it's going to get really, really expensive sometimes. What I mean by that is, I went in the grocery store yesterday, and in my mind, I was thinking I was going to see one person with a mask, and I was going to just point the mask and say no, and that was going to be all the magic I was going to do. I just wanted to make it just a little bit expensive for someone to do that. And if you missed my live stream yesterday, I wanted to get Ben on this yesterday, but I want to repeat this: the mask, when they're wearing a mask, what they're doing is they're ending empathic telepathy with you and everyone around them. The face is your empathy conveyor. It's how we convey empathy. Nothing lights up the brain more in a functional MRI than the face. Most of your calories, most of your brain lights up when it's trying to recognize a face. It's the most important thing that you can do when you connect with a human, is see their face. It's a full-on asynchronous connection of the adrenal system. Your adrenals are almost like not almost, they're an antenna. That's why they're spread out all over the body. Your antenna has to be spread out. It can't be all clumped together like on your shoulder. It has to be spread out so it can go far. And when you match with someone's face, you can, in my opinion, I think what you're doing is you're aligning all three currents. You've got the drum of the brain, the drum of your lungs, and the drum of your heart. Those are three different rhythms that you're establishing. And when you make an empathic connection, what you're really doing is playing these trifecta drum solos for each other in a real subtle way. And you end up creating a resonance, a song that no one else has. You can't play the same song with everyone else unless you're just a real boring ass fucking evacuated person. But you meet best friends. What the best friends really means is like so good jam session. It's such a good rhythm session, like your favorite concert with your favorite artists, with those favorite visiting artists playing at the same time. It's a cohesion that creates the adrenal flow of serotonin, dopamine. It depends on what you get off on. Not all of us get off on being happy. Some of us get off on discovery. Some of us get off on strife. Some of us get off on all kinds of things. The point is that both of you have made a prana economy that is pays off more than anyone else that you've ever had in the world. That's all friendship is. It's just a really good deal. It's like going to the flea market and finding that antique spoon and just being, damn, the prana economy on that guy is just freaking perfect. That's why when you're going out in public and you're seeing someone with a mask on, there a lot of bad vampirism, man, is happening with that. A lot of badass shit. In fact, there's a reason why surgery, guys, what's the first mutilation that you can think of was done by a surgeon? All right, any kind of body mutilation happens through someone who calls himself a frickin' surgeon. All right, so if you can follow that, you'll understand what I mean by psychopathy and surgery are kind of like hand in fucking hand. And if you ask anyone in the medical industry, hey, who's the worst narcissist around there, they're gonna fucking tell you the surgeons are. They're gonna tell you that. And this is not an accident, man. When you get behind that mask, you become a vampire of energy. You are a legalized, praised sociopath of energy. Why? Because you are no longer having to empathically send your face to them. Now you have a certain sense of predator nature to you. You're camouflaged in some way. Second of all, you're conveying the sense of everyone outside of me is sick. I'm the only one in the entire world who's pure. That's a pilfering of your energy. It's not just them sending out an oscillation. It's them injecting. They're injecting something into your egoic field, and they're able to pull it out like a syringe and suck that plasma from you and use it to feed their own fucking field. This is like really, really bad mojo. And that's why when you look around at all these masks, you have to understand those masks, as far as away as you need to be where you see a mask, you're looking at a dark magic field at work in the world that was created like a bubble, like a black bubble emitted itself. And now it's walking through the grocery store, touching all my food that I wanted to buy, touching everyone's food by this person in this black mask, this black bubble around them. It's a sick, 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 sick dark magic. That's why I've been pushing the idea we have to shame face masks. But I got to be honest, man. Yesterday, it was just too many of them. It was too many. And I was trying as hard as I could to get through the store. It's just, I got company in town, so I was buying things that took forever. And it was just like, it was a very, very painful experience. It was like difficult because all around me was the magic. Now, listen carefully. That difficulty is why most people will stop believing in magic. That that is part of what Disney's job is. Okay, you need to understand just how crucial Disney is to this. Disney's job is to make sure that you understand that all magic is superficial. It gives you the chance to ignore scary, giant, big blobs of black magic all around you. That's why when you're born, you're surrounded by black magic. The moment you're in a hospital, man, you were surrounded by some evil, evil rituals that are now called procedures. Procedure is not something that helps someone. It's not something that's best for someone. Procedure is the official thing we do. Circumcision is a procedure. All of these things are built into the exact same black magic that's all around us. When the black magic scares you, you have one of two choices. You haven't chosen yet. All you have is fear. That fear is potential. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to A, reject it and pretend like magic doesn't exist? Or can you stand in that fear for a moment and say, I will not waver. I'm going to stand here and see what I can do with this. Can I transmute this? Yesterday, I could not transmute it. There were at least 50 masks, and all the employees that were actually working there had been turned like jackals, these like hyenas, where they were just like, they had just came into the disgusting nature of the field around them and they have completely changed. And I've been going to this grocery store for years, guys. These are different creatures now. They were reduced from a higher vibration, they devolved into this lower hunchback life form where they've abandoned all hope because they're living inside this building now that's surrounded by all these black clouds, man. That is what we're dealing with. I realize that sounds dramatic, but I'm telling you, this is tangible stuff that you will see once you're ready. And it's when you see it that you will find all the freaking energy in the world just going, where you been, dude? I've been waiting for you. It'll be right there waiting for you. But you got to be able to see it in that courage and fear. Ben, you got anything on?
Absolutely. They've got, before, just like we were talking about, before they can actually start implementing real changes, you have got to break up the stability. You can't just go in and, hey, everybody, let's do this crazy thing. And everybody said, what? But we create that element of fear. We create that whirlwind. And now somebody says, oh, that's a good idea. That would make us safe. You've got to bring in that element of change. And as James said, that was beautiful with the surgeon right out the gate. You look at South America, look up some of these miracle surgeons. They aren't in there with masks, especially not a dust mask. Let's look. Dust is a particle that you can actually see. Have you ever seen a bacteria or a virus? Has this ever happened? So we're talking about a pretty big particle to get caught into that. The only reason that a surgeon would really be wearing that, if you put any mind to it, is so their spit doesn't happen to get out. And the fact is, like I said, you go to other places where they don't have these problems with these miracle surgeons. They aren't wearing masks. They're being very social to the patient. The patient's very comfortable. A lot of times they're using an onyx razor blade, which cuts in such a way that it either cuts the nerve clean or cuts between the nerves. So there's zero pain behind it. You can watch the videos of these people sitting there and just sitting there talking to the surgeon while they're openly operating on them. There's a whole lot to this that we don't understand that was brought to us with the medicine that we are practicing today. And one of the things that I said as soon as I saw these masks start, last year, I wasn't allowed to walk in wearing my hoodie, not with the hood up. Now, part of the reason for that is because it obscures your face. Whenever you look at old Westerns, even just taking a handkerchief, putting it here, anything, almost never is that a scenario where it's a good guy coming to help you. If it's a good guy coming to help you, he's happy to let you know who he is. Only a bad guy doesn't want you to know who he is. We have this innate, if we see somebody with a mask, immediately, you don't know exactly who they are. You're very questionable about them. You don't have, like James was stating, they're a vampire. They aren't putting out their energy. You're questing now. And so there's not this even exchange. They have an upper hand. You're an open book. They are not. There's a reason that when we're conversing in text and things like that, if you're being sarcastic, if I make a smart ass comment at James, and I'm gonna be sitting there with that little half smirk, and he knows I'm being smart. He doesn't think I'm being rude. That same thing doesn't happen in text or on the internet. That's why there's so many emotional triggers. And people are like, I was just kidding. Like, well, that didn't carry because you didn't see the face, you didn't see the energy, all those things. So they've just absolutely devolved us into a society of fear. And it's fear that we've always had because now everybody's masked up. And it doesn't even make logical sense. Even if you believe the mainstream story to a T, mainstream science says that a dust mask does not stop bacteria or viruses. So even in their story, this doesn't make sense. Not logical.
Yep.
Like,
They're, they're
go ahead.
asking, they're basically telling you guys, hey, look, all the water's dirty, but if you hold this fork in front of your mouth and swim around, you can drink whatever you want. and everything's going to be fine. You just have to hold this fork in front of you, because that fork, it's going to magically stop all the bad water from getting through. So now everybody's safe. That's the CDC. That's the president of the United States. The dude who's now your doctor. The dude who fired your doctor. The dude who you cannot get a second opinion from. Our doctor now is the military. And none of us can change that right now. That's what's freaking happened. And if you really want to look at this, let's really look at this, because what is germ theory but the belief that the poison is inside you? Terrain theory is the belief that the poison is outside you, that it's in the environment. The World Health Organization dude just said today, we're going to have to go into families and take children away. He doesn't even mention terrain theory. It's not even an option for them. These people see that the witch is inside you. It's inside the village. How are you going to sell a village on a witch if you tell them, oh, the witch is outside. It's about 50 miles west. You guys give me money, I'll go kill it. No one's going to buy that. You got to sell that it's inside. If you sell them that the witch is inside, you're going to win. You're going to be a successful witch finder. So what is germ theory? It's telling you the poison's inside you. Let's picture that electrically, okay? Let's picture our bodies as an electrical torus surrounding us, a shape, an aura, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Picture that electrical field and realize that it's a steady state field, a bubble. And when you're charismatic, when you're confident, when you're in your groove, when you just had a good run, when you ate a good food, when you just had some awesome sex, whatever, your field is golden, man. It's solid. It's permeable. It's got a good bounce to it. There's no holes in it. It's got a sheen, right? That's health. That's health. It's an oscillation. That sheen is made from the oscillation of your three drums, of your three beats, your pulses. The pulse of who you are is setting that. Now imagine a fucking dude, a bandit comes up in a mask, and he says, "You're dirty. You're full of viruses. There's a virus. You were made of 380 trillion viruses, and they're all dangerous." And we're declaring war on those viruses inside you. So out of the 380 trillion of them, some of them are bad, and we have to find them. No, I can't show them to you. They're too small. You're going to have to trust me. No. Yes, if you get an electron microscope, you're still not going to be able to see them in real time. You're just going to get a brief picture that's based on the act of looking, which means the quantum physics thing is all already confusing it. And no, we can't actually prove that a virus does any harm to you. You're going to have to trust me. That's the evil. It's inside you. I don't want to talk about the terrain. I don't want to talk about anything else. We're only going to focus on the witch that's inside you, hiding amongst your 380 trillion viruses. And it's so small you can't find it yourself. It's so small you can't trust a doctor. It's so small you can't trust anyone for a second opinion. You have to trust a guy that we don't even know. None of us even know the guy's name who said, "This is the evil witch inside." We don't even know that person. All we've been told is this is what we're doing right now. Now, what is happening in your electrical field when that guy with a gun is telling you that? Because he's got a gun now. He's saying you can't leave your house. He's saying you can't go to school. You can't do anything because the virus is you, because there's something inside you. Now picture what's happening to your electrical field. He's stuck a syringe inside you and he's injected a poison. He's declared that this exists inside you now. He's attacking your immune system. He's attacking it with panic. He's injecting an electromagnetic signal of propaganda. And through somnoluminescence, through vibrating it just so, in just a deep enough, small enough way, You contribute to that vibration by believing it. And if you don't believe it, it's okay. But as you walk around and you keep seeing more and more red COVID 19 signs, as you walk around hearing more and more reports of it, as you walk around noticing you can't even walk around anymore, there's drones in the air flying, yelling at you about it. All of that is more panic aimed directly at your electronic field, at your electrical field. And all around you, people are dropping like flies. People are going to the hospital because they're sick now. And it's this is how you create the witch. This is how you install it. This is what happened with the Black Plague. This is what happened with the Spanish flu. Once you introduce the idea that this is it creates an oscillation that is contagious. The air around you is contagious to sound. Your thoughts are contagious to your beliefs. It works the exact same way. That's why you need that strong electrical field. That's why you have to understand that propaganda exists. So many people that have fallen like flies are the same people that were hoarding toilet paper, that were wearing the masks first, that are going around yelling at people for being outside. They fell first. They've turned into the jackals now. They're now the hyenas of the machine running through the hallways. Like they'll kill anybody they'll find because the terror has begun. The black magic has erupted inside the body now and it's moving about the cabin. There are snakes on the fucking plane. What it is you're looking at directly. And that's why magic's going to have to be some like badass stuff. And guys, it's going to all start from your electrical field. And the first thing I want to pass this off to Ben, but I want to make sure people get this. The first strength I want you to find in your electrical field is realizing that not one of these assholes, not a single one, has brought up terrain theory. Not one of them has said, hey, maybe the toxin is outside the body. Not one. That's point A. Point B, all of us are on quarantine. How are we supposed to know if it's terrain theory if we can't leave the terrain to check? Which means, in my opinion, this is the perfect way to hide a terrain theory attack of some kind. It's the perfect way to mask the assault on your electrical system. The reason why I told you first about the masks and about the COVID-19 signs is because I wanted you to know that the attack is already happening. It's already happening to your system right now. And even though we're getting ready to talk about what other sort of things could be in the environment attacking you, I just hope that we don't forget that you're already being attacked. Propaganda is an electromagnetic frequency, and it is so poisonous that it will make everyone stop what they're doing and hide inside their houses with zero evidence to go on at all, purely from a vibration of words. This is propaganda. It's a virus of propaganda. And as much as we do not recognize it, Ben?
Fantastic. With terrain theory, this brings us to most of my views, and it's kind of a cross between that and the electrical theory that the newer German science is testing out. So, in order for attach, you have to be able to create. So, things that are stable naturally attach to other things. Once a cell is stable and it's no longer grabs on to other odd cells in any type of force like that. So when you have something missing, this is why like you end up suffering from like when you're detoxing and things like that, and it hurts. Even if it's something like my grand, and she was running his finances, and it was my great grandfather. She was running his finances and stuff. She was running his finances. So then he went to the hospital because he got sick. Well, they he got worse and worse and ended up having wow. They ended up and he ended up getting worse until he started having seizures. Well, they went home and got his prescription pills to see what kind of a what kind of pill he was on, and when they took the pills to him and they gave him the pill, would somebody please text Lindsay Rose Bobshot and tell her that we're on live right now? When they gave him the pill, it was arsenic. So she had been giving him small amounts of arsenic consistently, which is a direct poison. And his body had eventually become so used to it that once that void was created, he got sick. And he would have actually felt better just going back to the balance that he had by putting that arsenic back in there. Now, this is a very odd thing when anybody wants to think about that. Like, why would a poison do that? Because you had created a new balance. Well, they need to create that disruption and get your cell unstable so they can seep in this poison. And now you need this. This is just the way things work on so many levels. It's not even funny. And then if I was going to take over a community and just listening to their videos, they're saying that they may have to go in, and it was Rachel Maddow. I just posted that. They're directly saying they're going to have to go into people's houses, remove them, and take them to some unknown place until they magically get better, according to them. Well, if you were in a community, and every neighborhood has neighborhood friends. James and I live next to each other. We barbecue. Ted across the street. All these guys. And we start noticing they're dragging people out of the neighborhood, and James disappears, and they drag him out kicking and fighting, and he's yelling, and we're like, I never seen James cough. Nobody in his family's been sick. He wasn't sick. And then we see them doing that to Ted. Well, sooner or later, the neighborhood's going to get together and say, nah, you need to bring us some proof. Except for they've taken that away. Isolation. It's always divide and conquer, right?
Yep. Hey, let's play that. let me actually play that for people, okay, Ben? I think it's really important.
Please do. Yes.
This is exactly we're talking about. They're attacking your electrical field right now by threatening to take away your family. This is part of the tactic for how they squeeze into your electrical field. I'm going to show you. This guy right here.
When you really put a mind to it, this video is disturbing.
Forms of isolation and intrusive monitoring.
This is just the beginning. This is just an attempt to freeze everything in place.
This is just the beginning.
The real work begins. You've got to get people who are infected out of their homes so that they don't infect their family members.
The family is the infection.
Even if they have almost no symptoms, they're going to have to go someplace where they can
Even if they have almost no symptoms.
get over it together. We need to test literally millions of people because the first time you get a negative test means nothing.
If you test negative, it means nothing. Listen to him hunt the witch, guys. Listen.
A negative test, you a lot more to do even after we go into a lockdown.
What we would do with people who had fevers. What you've described as these sort of temporary hospitals where people who have mild or moderate illness have to leave their families. People who have fevers get diagnosed.
The guy on the left is Rachel Maddow, by the way.
Yes. And look at that scenario that they set up. Even if he has no symptoms and tests negative, if we say that he's a harm, we could drag him off to some unknown place. How insane is that?
It's no more insane than the Spanish Inquisition, which should tell people that this happens. This is not out of the ordinary. This is how terrorism works. Who do you think is in charge of terrorism around the globe right now, guys? Think about it.
Walk into a grocery store while openly carrying a peach. You're endangering the other people in the store. Now we're going to put you in isolation.
It's an open carry. If you are an open carry device now, humanity is an open carry weapon now. They're weaponizing humans.
We're going to, you're for your own protection. Not everybody's case is mild.
You're not
It's for your own protection. It's only because of that. That's the only reason why we're going to have to burn down the village. It's only because it's going to protect you. And 7 million people starved during the Great Depression. And that wasn't when they only had 5 food trucks. All of our food comes in 5 food trucks owned by 5 different corporations. This new depression is not going to be 7 million. It will be 56 million. There will be a lot of bodies dropping because of what happens in the next 30 days. And the key to that is to make it look like COVID. It has to be masked and slaughtered across the board. This will be written in history as COVID, no matter what we do. They've already got the statistics building from it. The reason why the hospitals are empty, think about it. Why would you empty hospitals? Because if you send these people home, these people are going to die in their home and they're going to call the paramedics. And both those numbers in the statistics are going to go way the fuck up. They're going to show a lot higher. That is part of the oscillation of propaganda that's fighting against you. Think about it. Your electrical field is going to see a little tiny sign that says, you're sick, you're sick. And you're going to be like, oh, that's ridiculous. But you come back the next day and that sign is bigger, right? Come back the next day, it's bigger, but there's 2. Your electrical field is going to be able to handle so much of that. But your neighbor, their electrical field is not. There's going to be a certain capacity of that propaganda, that oscillation, that's going to finally break down your electrical field. Your egoic immune system is going to break down. And you're going to have no other choice but to buy into it. It's just going to be too much dissonance. This is how black magic works. This is how a lie works. You repeat it over and 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 over. And all you're doing is just showing, I have more will than you. 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 And when you have the entire zeitgeist operating as a functional repeater for the will, more will fall into the dissonance. Can you understand, guys? This is electromagnetic frequency. Words. They are electromagnetic frequency. They're poisoning you with words. They're poisoning you with EMF. All of us are being brought into this field of RF poisoning. And the entire time they're telling you it's something else. But it's them telling you it's something else that actually is the poison that's going in. It's so black, it's so dark that most of us are just not going to be able to accept it. And that's what you see working in the hospitals right now. That's what you see behind the cop cars right now. Anyone in a uniform has already fallen to this virus. It's all over their clothes. They're wrapped in a shellac of this fictitious corporation. The fiat that we all yearn for is like a pellet that we've been learned to eat, that we've as creatures have learned to pull and be rewarded for. And we've learned that we can exchange this with other people. This is part of the oscillation that enters our field and stays there. It's all the same poison. It's all from the same source. And right now it's kicking so much ass right now. That's why we have to recognize it, because as you recognize it, that's how you can transmute it. But it's only by recognizing it. And before I pass back to Ben, I want to point out that I've gotten a lot of shit about, James, why are you being so negative? I'm not being negative. I'm being transmutive. If you do not look at what's around you, you're not going to be able to transmute it. And that's why I wrote the spell Humanity is Not a Virus for a very specific reason. I used the word not in there for a very specific reason. This is too powerful of a spell. The COVID sign is too large. We do not have, our tribe does not have enough magic to make a sticker larger than the COVID sticker. What we have to do is work cleverly. We have to place a smaller sticker in the middle of their larger sticker. And our smaller sticker then transmutes the entire thing, because it shows this entire bullshit of COVID-19 is fucking an attack on humanity. And this little tiny sticker inside is transmuting the entire larger flyer into the facade that it is. I hope that makes sense. Ben, do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. My first thought, and one that I want to bring up most is if you're having trouble understanding how this screaming COVID to the world is affecting them, have a child and have them come home and your teacher call and say one of the other kids had lice. Just say the word lice and your head immediately itches for the next week. Every time you get some little itchy spot on your head, you're like, do I have lice? Lice. You're in the mirror, taking a knit comb. And I've never had lice in my life. I don't even at this point have enough hair on the top of my head for lice to want to live there. And nobody wants to move into a trailer park, right? And so I don't even know what it feels like, but I can guarantee my head is itched 1,000 times from the word lice. That one is so strong. COVID has taken on the same life because every authority figure and every media outlet that you know has screamed it. From the start, now that we got the New York reports coming in, it's balancing out. But before this supposed New York strike, and I do call it a strike, before this, most people could only ever name a celebrity. And there is a list of celebrities. The amount of celebrities that somehow got that, it's exponential to what it should have been. It's insane. Apparently, they just are susceptible to COVID. Well, no, what it was they were getting the world to start screaming it and drag and create this environment for us, setting up the spell. This is absolutely what they needed to do. And as James said, this is not being negative. You need to stop as an alchemist. Before you can start a new vibration, you need to stop being in theirs. And then you stop and you look at your terrain, you look at your environment, and you say, now what do I need to do? That's just intelligence. From that point, you start putting your energy into the pivot point. And I also absolutely love that you don't need to overwhelm what they have going, because that's why they work the way they do. They do it on every front, no matter whether it's electronically, whether they're jacking everything up to 5G and we want 6G and beyond. And whether it's that, all that is to drown out every other possible signal. The more they can jack that up, the harder it is for anything else to get a whisper in. And the universe is a whisper. They are absolutely wanting to be kings of this plane. So if you look at it and you see it, whether it's in the sky, that's what scares me the most about these towers. These towers are just above our head. So my worldview is we live on this plane. We are made for a mix in between earth and ether. Everything that's below us is too dense for us. Now, like plants, they're on a plane below us. Their roots actually reach into the earth. They live in that, half of them. So they're below us. We walk on top of that plane. But if we were to get too high in the sky, we can't breathe that. That's too etheric for us. So when we're talking about the heavens and the earth and all that and the hells and all those things, and that is all very touchable for me. I can reach up and go to areas that I'm not etherically able to normally be in, and I can't live in that. I'm not that being. I need to connect to this earth. Electrically, I need to connect to this earth because I am part earth. Etheric beings are not. Excuse me one second.
That's really awesome, man. I never even thought about the roots thing. That's really brilliant. I guess like whales are like most frequency dense creature there is because they can like they would travel the most, right? As far as like in their
Yep. Absolutely. And they say whales can like affect things, hundreds of miles away through the water. That's the more dense something is, the easier things carry through it. That's another amazing thing. The denser it is, the better your vibrations are going to carry.
Yeah, you're right.
So, yep. So for me, this world is that's what it's about. Now, what they're trying to do is create a screen. Now, if you imagine the the balloon satellites that they have and the 5G towers that they have, they are literally a net, a web above us. And they with all the tunneling and everything and all the electrical lines, that they have literally created the same thing below us. So these are lords of this plane. They don't want us to deal with the above and below. These are the people that are the most scared of death, the most scared of the gods. When you're trying so hard to pin some kind of religion to them, understand they aren't really following one. They want to be lords of this plane. They understand that when a plant dies on this plane, it's immediately its oil will start evaporating, and then eventually the body will rot out and the earth components will fall out, and then the salt will fall out, and then the oil will come down, the salt will rise up, and you will have a new life. There's a lot of theories that they have control of this. That's why they're able to play the long game, because they're literally just coming back as themselves every time. There is an actual science to this. So if you're able to do that and you had absolute control of this plane, why would you want to go through the torture that Odin did, or even in the Christian cosmology where Yeshua went through this horrifying torture before his and if you look at that story, that's when he yells out, oh God, why did you leave me? That's not God. That's not the All Father. We're all part of the All Father. You can't separate from that. What it was his spirit bailing out. When you're an impure being and your salt and your oil have not locked, if you put fire to it, the spirit bails first. Just like in the story of the plant, the oil and the water jump out and roll out first. That's the spirit. So underneath that extreme torture, his spirit separated, and then you need to go back and put them back together.
Man, that's you're so awesome. I never even ever considered that. That is so freaking cool. It's all so self-evident too. I love it. It's that makes it so true because you can just see exactly what you're talking about all around you and what's happening. So
Yep. And I think they want to contain everything on this plane and become the gods of this plane. Almost like the way, if you've ever read about anti-graphitics, the way that's supposed to work, where they basically create a reality bubble inside of the bubble, and then the ship is operating off of that reality, and the bubble on the outside subject to ours, but because they're inside that bubble, things work different. So it's the same concept. They're creating a bubble inside of here and then charging it and separating it and saying, now we run this world. And we're all stuck inside this new, smaller bubble.
yep. That's actually part of the same magic with the sticker. The I didn't want to transmute. I didn't want to rip the flyer off. That wouldn't do it. I needed the flyer to stay there, but I needed a sticker in the middle of it. It's like sonoluminescence. It's inside of a bubble of water. If you focus the sound just right, it's going to basically create light where there was no light before, and it's all through focused will. It's you focusing the will inside of that larger bubble, and you can transmute it and change it. So this is why I keep saying all of this is potential, because all of that magic is up for grabs right now. It's highly kinetic, it's highly powerful, and otherwise, imagine if I just had humanity as a virus and there was no COVID-19 happening at all, that wouldn't take off at all. No one would charge or feel anything from that. But any of us, if any of us have heard the words humanity is not a virus, and if any of us have participated in the magic, thereby handwriting a mailing label sticker and placing it on something, every time you see someone else do that, you are going to get a bump of prana now. You're going to feel super powerful because you realize, oh, wait, I'm in a tribe of people that are transmuting this COVID 19 using this magic of a sticker. All of this is tangible, actionable fields that you can see. Like I keep saying before, as far away as you can see the black magic in its effect in the world, that's how powerful the bubble is in that one area. Think about Al Gore and recycling. Anytime you would see a recycling logo, Al Gore gets a bump from that. He feels a really big hard on when he does that. When he watches people shaming each other for being disgusting creatures of earth, he is all he's doing is gaining that power. The shame is the deflation from someone's prana, and it goes to the creator of that spell, of whoever it is that did that. Yes, there's a commission for the people and their virtue shaming and everyone else that they're all collecting it, but part of that commission still comes back to him. That's what shows you what a powerful magi he is. It shows you just how powerful this COVID-19 thing is too. This is 101 years later past the Spanish flu. And only now, only because of their magic, check this out. It's only because of this evil that's happened that I've really been able to look back at the entire pharmaceutical medical industry and go, wait a minute. The most dangerous thing to our health is literally the people that are saying that they're out to protect it. What's fascinating about this is actually the only way to safely interact with a great horned owl or with any kind of raptor. The only way to interact with them safely is to get right up next to them, as close to their eyes as you can. An owl can't see what's right in front of its face. Therefore, if you don't want to get bitten or scarred by an owl, you want your hand as close to his face as you can possibly get it. This is a form of camouflage. It's called blatant camouflage. And that's what they're doing around you. All this black magic is always going to be wrapped around the very organization that's pretending to protect it. Why? Because it would be such a sickening thought to suddenly realize that the CDC is literally the centers of disease control, where their literal job is to be the center of disease control. When you're that blatant, you become invisible. This is part of why the magic is just so effective. It's part of that black cloud around you is actually blindness. It's making you blind to what's there, and the serotonin and the dopamine economy makes it even more blind because it just physically doesn't feel comfortable, so you don't want to look at it. That's why I think some of us don't see, that's why most of us don't see etherical spirits, because it would make us uncomfortable if we knew that all these things were floating around all around us at all times. That requires a certain amount of calories, and many of us just aren't willing to spend them, me included. So you have to understand that as you tap into this stuff more, I think probably you're just going to be able to see more and more stuff. Because you're going to have more courage. You're going to understand how to use fear. Remember what happens every time you get in fear? Your eyesight improves, right? Your eyesight gets perfect when you get scared. Your hearing gets perfect when you get scared. That adrenaline is fueling you to be able to see things that you would not be able to see before. That's why this is such an important time right now. They're literally charging you with fear, and that fear is energy. You can use that. You can tap into that. Ben?
Love it. Absolutely. They've shaken things up. Don't let them just redirect it. Absolutely. Now, so again, we all work electrically. So you understand that what they're trying to do is if I take my batteries and I run them in a parallel, so that way, if I want to bump up my amperage, I will take the batteries and I will put the positives of them together and chain them positive, and it will actually bump up the um, amperage of this whole cell. So I've got to get them flowing in the same direction, and I've got to get the hertz, because there's, especially when you're talking about 208, part of the reason that you're going to get a spark when the two hit each other is because one's going like this. Well, the other one's doing that perfectly off timed from the first one. So these are two absolutely separate energies. And so they're hitting at opposite times. Ding, 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 ding. Well, what they want is to drag everybody with them into their cell. What I love about James's subtlety with that is if you try to become the opposite, you're just going to create a clash. And they are overpowering because they've got so many people drug into so many batteries all tied together, where it's positive, all the positives are tied together and it's all pushing in the same exact way. They've got so many of them. If you try and deadhead that, all it's going to do is create an explosion, and one that's not going to go well for you. We don't have that kind of power and that kind of force. But understanding you can siphon off from that. You might want to go up and just stop the river with the dam. Well, that's rough. But getting the river to veer, that's not so hard. So you stop going in their direction. This just always applies in every way. You need to just step out of the stream and stop it and go, okay, which way do I want? And start tunneling that direction. And as you start doing it, the river will start pushing with you. And you will start finding things easier and easier. But the very first step is always actually getting out and working. Because one of the things that fear will do, if you have ever been around people, there's two types. What or three actually. One type that will just run around screaming, one type that will just stop and dead freeze, and one type that will get to work on the situation. What you want to do is practice being that first person. This is part of why they've softened us to such a degree and given us such comfort, because there's so many people in the world at this point where all they will do is just freeze in a tense situation rather than let the situation don't affect me. Don't let that affect the decisions I'm going to make. Just stop dead, look at the situation for what it is, and make the correct decision and choose the course based off of that. Don't let the situation choose the course. Never let that happen. So that's everything in life. Whenever you feel emotionally drugged into something, you should immediately stop and go. And I'm not criticizing the emotion, because we are an emotional being. That's where our power and our density comes from. But understand that the receiver is also the writer. The etheric end, while it's receiving, it is also the action, the plan of action. So don't let that get overridden and get the bottom part, do the plan of action. The future writes the past. You need the engineer to be the one saying, listen, okay, this is what the situation is according to the contractor, and this is what the supply house says we have. So I've redone my plans. This is what we can do with the situation. Shoot that down to the supply house, which is your emotional density. Give it that power, and then let that manifest on this plane. This all gets extraordinarily occult. This is part of why when you look at the Norns, the future Norn is always the youngest, and the past Norn is always the oldest. I was young in the past, and I'm going to be old in the future. That doesn't really make sense, because the future writes the past, and we manifest that right now. The past is our density. We've lived through that. We have emotions about it. I don't have emotions about things I've never lived through or experienced. I need that emotion for that power. That's the wisdom. I understand. And furthermore, there's a million things that are a good idea, but if I haven't lived through them and added that emotion, well, sometimes them good ideas aren't so great. Like, you get there and you made this great plan and you get to like, oh, this sucks. This sucks so bad. Well, now you've got this disconnect. Where you need to be is your etheric and your emotion need to match, and then you manifest it with your contractor. That's your ego right now. At some point, you want to end up being able to instantly manifest, which means sacrificing that ego. As we're talking about, there always has to be a sacrifice when you want to gain something, whether it's them or you. The universe does not recognize change without sacrifice and pain. It's just a fact. Whether it's weightlifting, whether it's I sit down and read a book until I have a splitting headache and then go to bed and can't sleep for the next 2 hours, even though I'm desperately tired and have a splitting headache. This is all the pain. This is the price for me soaking that in and incorporating that in. All levels that happens.
Yep. In fact, when a mother sacrifices her ability to sleep for a child, like we pretend that, well, it's just because the baby had trouble sleeping, but actually what's happening is that the both of them are in a magical ceremony where the baby wants to believe it's got a lot of growing to do, man. It's only this tall. It's only this tall. It needs some serious freaking magic to get this tall and this tall. And the only way to do that is to just pull it right out of mom. And she's there, you know, like, yes, I will give you this. I will sacrifice this. I will sacrifice this. I will sacrifice this. And it's only through that really the magic's able to happen, and she's able to transmute. The entire thing is a magical ceremony from the conception through the birth, you know, onward and upward. So back to what Ben was saying about the future and the past, I really like this analogy. The idea is that the past has been decrypted or decoded. We've unzipped the past so we know what was inside it. The future is still encrypted. It's still encoded, and we haven't decoded it yet. And right now, what we're doing right now is the apocalypse. You are living in a living, burning cauldron of apocalypse now. That apocalypse is just like you're unzipping or decompressing a zip file on your hard drive. And it takes a moment to unzip the whole thing. And as it's going through, you're seeing that happen. And that is literally the apocalypse, which is the uncovering. This is what I mean by you have to transmute fear properly. They want you to be afraid of the apocalypse, but actually the apocalypse is where all information has been exposed in one moment. And that's why when you look at what they're doing at their magic, you're able to gain so much understanding about how the world works by looking at where their magic is focused on. Focus on where their magic is, and you'll understand where the power is that they're hiding from. They are attacking the inside of you. They're not attacking the outside of you, they're attacking the inside of you. They want you to believe that the poison is inside you. That shows you where all the power is. Where is their most what is their most deadly enemy? It's what's inside you. It's the virus inside you. There are 380 trillion viruses, exosomes. This is a secretion from your cells. What is your cells but a decentralized platform of tribes that have agreed in unison that they freaking love the shit out of you? They love you so much that they've created a longhouse where all of them share this environment, and they do these things for a giant powwow where one of them's like, we're going to be the spleen for this powwow. Another one's like, we're going to be the lungs. All of this, these are your tribe of cells, and they're the most dangerous thing in the world. That's why they're declared war. That's why they're declaring war on COVID-19. Your humanity, your exosomes is COVID-19. And what is literally happening when an exosome exerts the cell? The cell's making a sacrifice of itself to try and save the tribe. It's literally ejecting something, saying, hey, here's a virus. Please use it to help yourself. And we're declaring that the problem is with the viruses themselves. Guys, it's a scary thought, but I can prove it. And I'll put it in this article coming up. But most of you know this is true. The others who don't just can't accept it. They declared a war on your exosomes in 1889. When they first started talking about viruses, what they were literally doing is saying, if people didn't have an immune system, we could rule the world. We could be the arbiter of everyone's immune system. And that's why right now, if you go on Wikipedia or wherever else you want to go and do a search for autoimmune disease, you'll see that there's 110 different autoimmune diseases right now. And almost all of them have some sort of pharmacological way of dealing with it, of trying to quote, quote, treat it. And I'm telling you, the witch finder general doesn't find a witch in the village unless he puts one there. That's how he does his job. He has to inject a witch into the village before he can come in and have them pay him for it. It doesn't work any other way than that. It's a business model. Dr. Kaufman himself will tell you it's 10 times more profitable for a hospital if you die there. They make 10 times more money off you. It doesn't mean that everyone in the hospital is therefore evil and in on it. A really nice nurse with a great heart will still work there and not know. I was in the Navy. We kill people all the fucking time. I'm a nice guy. It happens to all of us. It happens when we're blind to what possibly could happen. It happens when we're pretending that there's no such thing as panthers. When we're fucking sucking our thumbs all day, pretending that no, we're the top of the pyramid and there's no such thing as psychopaths. It's this is part of the black magic. And the more of us stay asleep, the more of us resonate for all of them. That's why the magic is so hard. That's why there were 50 masks in the grocery store yesterday, because all of those were hyenas that have already fallen to the spell. And those hyenas are going to cause other hyenas to fall. There's going to be more falling. The magic of zeitgeist is about volume. The magic of white, the magic of truth is about truth. It's about frequency. It's about the tone, the quality of it. It's not about the volume of it. These are totally different magic. That's why you're always going to see a giant red COVID-19 sign and a really tiny humanity is not a virus sign. Those are actually equal. It's actually the same amount of energy put in there, and one of them's going to win. It's going to depend on who someone is and what it is that they want to look like. Because I had friends that have argued with me, calling me an evil person, because I'm telling them that they don't have to be so afraid. So it shows you that once you're turned, you're going to fight anyone else who tries to unturn you. It's just a natural part of how the black magic works. It's why so many of us have been gutted of ego. When you gut the ego, all you're doing is you're finding a way to short out your electrical field. That's all you're doing. They found a way to short circuit the electrical field. And by short circuiting it, anything can get in. That's why terrain theory doesn't even have to be discussed by most of us, because most of us are used to the idea that, well, evil's inside me. It's always my fault. Sexism, racism, recycling, dirty, carbon footprint, all of it. It's always my fault. It's always something about me. It's always my sin. It's always my ignorance. It's always an evil part about me that makes the world bad. If they didn't have all that propaganda if you weren't being poisoned by that propaganda, you wouldn't be so prone to buying into this crap right now. I mean, it's really a lot of crap. Picture yourself in ancient Samaria, and you're like a dude living out on the steppe, and you're as wild as hell. You're an amazing creature that's you have your own food, you take care of yourself, everything. Imagine someone else coming up to you going, hey dude, you're evil inside. You need to quarantine. I need you to put you in this hole in mud, and you need to stay there where no one else could be around you because you're toxic and bad. It's like, it's so obvious when you look at it through those tones. But when you look at it in today's world with all the dissonance, people don't see it so obviously. They fall for it. And then they have kids. Then their kids fall for it. Next thing you know, everybody's literally placing cancer-causing lotion on their skin in an attempt to clean themselves. And that is the blackest magic there is, man. And they love watching that. That's why when you're wearing a mask, you're literally just pretending to be a swine person. And all you're doing is feeding them. The chronic bump that they're all getting from all of us wearing masks right now is immeasurable. It is so gross. And that's what we have to make expensive. We have to make that expensive. I can't stress enough about this humanity is not a virus stickers. Write them with your hand. You make it in your handwriting. It's such a powerful, powerful mantra. It's a beacon of hope for anyone else that sees it. They're going to look at that and go, oh, wow, that's never thought about that. It's a powerful, powerful magic. I'm not saying you have to do that spell, but I got that started. If you want to take it off, go for it. If not, do your own. But now's the time. 30 days, man. You got to try everything. Throw every single spell you can at it. Use all your power to invigorate your electrical field and find a way to disinvigorate those that are trying to kill your electrical field. Because if you don't do it now, all of our DNA changes in 30 days. Our entire future changes in 30 days if this doesn't happen now. I'm telling you, it's so important right now. It's so, so important. Ben, you got anything else on that?
Absolutely. So part of why they have to do this and get you to crap on yourself. And this is, the Catholic Church is one of the easiest examples of this. If they can get you to self-flagellate, now you are absolutely not going to stand up against them. And it's the same situation that church is actually pushed. And I believe that there's a lot of misinterpretations in there like the don't judge another person. The point where empathy is supposed to come in is after judgment. After you have logically deduced whether something was right or wrong and needs and should stop and continue, where empathy is supposed to come in is after judgment, not before. Is so, and people have switched that up and moved the empathy to before it. Like, well, I'm a dirty piece of crap. I'm not going to say nothing to James, and he's going to say something to me, and then I've got to kind of change and blah blah blah. Well, now you've just set yourself up for a spiral down to the worst. Okay, you've used your own weakness, what you consider your own weaknesses, against yourself. Now you're like, you know what? I'm going to put up with this situation that I would not have put up with because I'm a piece of crap. I am not worthy of standing up to that. So this is that whole self-flagellation, and it's what the environment that it creates. Now you're never going to stand up and fight. And the fact is no matter how big and bad you are, if you won't stand up for yourself, you're the easy target in the yard and you are going to get picked on. I raise chickens, I raise alpacas, I raise dogs, all cows, you name it. It does not matter what kind of animal we are talking about. The ones that's the Eeyore animal, the chicken that walks around like this, and that one gets picked on all day. The chicken that's out there with his chest out, puffed out, screaming, I'm a badass. The biggest chick, I don't care if that dude, I've got one, and they're called a Japanese. They're a Japanese bantam. This chicken maybe weighs 1.5 pounds, full-size chicken. That dude will go out and attack the 20-pound black copper Marin rooster if it ticks him off, and that black copper Marin will back off. Like, oh hey dude, I did all right. But if he on the same token, I've got another black copper Marin that's almost as big as that one. That dude gets picked on all the time. I keep him in the recovery coop most of the time because he's a sissy, and it's not because he's not got the size. It's there's something in him about him keeping him personally down, not letting him be the fullness of himself. Because there's no way them other tiny little roosters should be picking on that dude. All he ever had to do was stand up for himself. When you were going to elementary school, that was supposed to be training ground. The bully comes, he don't even want to mess with the guy who will stand up for himself. A mountain lion will run away from a chihuahua. Not because it can't beat that thing up, because that thing's screaming at it, ready to fight. And it's like, nah, I'm going to go over here and mont something that's not wanting to fight back. That's where it's easy. All predators even have a trigger in them that if something runs away, your dog, if somebody drives by on a bike, it's because that person's running away. It sets off their predator vibe. They're like, oh, that's prey. This is an automatic thing. Quit being prey. Quit wanting to fight back. This dirtying of humanity. I mean, if you're a nasty person, you know that. Change it. Most people, no matter how we look at them, do not ever consider themselves evil. You've got to pretty much throw that out of the equation. Even Donald Trump is not going to go home tonight. Even Hillary Clinton, no matter who you bring up, they're not going to go home and go, I'm an evil person. Yes, I have wrought bad things on humanity and it was great. That does not happen. Those people think that they're doing good things. It might not be fathomable to you and it might not be good for us, but guaranteed they think they're doing good. You've got to take all that out of the equation. You are not good or bad. Right now, the things that you choose to stand for and the things that you choose to be, that's what you are going to be. Be that. Even if it's a little different flavor, that doesn't make you a bad person. Stand up for your own world. Stand up for who you are. Don't let other people beat you down. And certainly don't let them get you to beat yourself down. The most ridiculous people on the planet are the Catholic self-flagellators. Oh, I'm a naughty boy. I'm a naughty boy. How ridiculous is that? I mean, even when you watch that in like movies, it's just got the horrifying, creepy. oh vibe. You know, you're like, oh, that's a disgusting people. Don't let it, the whole world turn you into that. Find that disgust in it. Disgusting. I'm a strong man. I'm a heathen. I don't need anybody else. I will take care of myself. I don't need other people. That's a different position. Then when they start coming to you and telling you to do harmful things to yourself, you're going to stand up. Now I go, okay, well, I guess they're right. I'm just a piece of shit anyways. Don't be that.
Yep. And that's why I keep saying ego and pride are basically voltage and amperage inside your field, man. And you need that stuff. And someone just said in tax, you got to let go of your pride. No, you don't get it. If you let go of your pride, you're going to have no respect for yourself, your DNA, your reputation, your heritage, your family line, all of it. Inversion is here, guys. That means that everything that you've been told is evil maybe not be evil. And everything that you've been told be good may not be good. And the more you focus on yourself, yes, the more you focus on yourself, the more powerful your field's going to be. It selfishness comes when you're lacking self. The behavior that we call narcissistic is not someone that has too much self. It's someone that is desperately dying from a lack of self. That's what's happening. That's what makes their behavior so desperate. It's because they're desperate. They're asphyxiating. They don't have an egoic field. They're asphyxiating energy, is what it is. They've lost the ability to maintain an energetic field. So anything that you're giving them, they're going to try and gobble up. They're not even going to be able to digest it. It's the exact opposite of what we've been told. If you have pride, you're going to stand up for your land more. You're going to stand up for your kids more. You're going to say, hey, I think I should be in charge of my airspace, not someone else. I think I should be in charge of my water quality, not someone else. That takes pride. It takes an electrical field around you to understand. Every time you're doing something to feed yourself, to protect yourself, you're adding another layer of electrical field outside of you. It's these are all tangible things that you can see. When you pull up in the driveway and you see your own garden, you have an electrical field that's that big. That garden is part of your electrical field now that surrounds your health and your family's health. It's all these things are tangible. You don't have to pretend. You can see these things all around you. Whether it's a sticker, humanity is not a virus, whether it's your garden, whether it's your own sticker that says humanity is a beautiful virus. It doesn't matter. When you see this stuff, you're seeing the field. You're seeing yourself broadcasted out there for everyone else. Anyway, yeah, um, you do need to mute your
We
mic.
all
And
know.
go ahead.
We all know. We all. I thought did have it on mute. Thankfully, no motorcycles came by at that moment. We all know that the loudest person in the classroom. We all went to high school, guys. Come on, the loudest person in the classroom. He also was the most depressed. Went through the most mental problems. There was no solid stability to that guy. That being solid and stable, just because they're loud and boisterous, they need that attention. Not the guy we all knew. If you ever were a fighter, the guy that you were supposed to be the most scared of, he wasn't the loudest. That guy usually was the quiet guy that just was going to walk up and get to work because he had a calm confidence and he knew, like, there was no joke to it. That guy was just going to come up and do what he was going to do. There was no question. He doesn't need the crowd's favor. He doesn't need all this hype. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do this right now. This is the difference between that Nuramov. How do you pronounce that? The guy who beat the brakes off of McGregor. You know, the one guy's like, yeah, I don't really have anything to say. And he just did. He was quiet. Didn't want to get into all that, like, hey man, we got our fight. Let's just fight. I don't want to do all this. And McGregor's out there strutting around like the biggest peacock on the world. And that dude came out and just massacred him quietly. Just came out and said, what, you have something to say now, as he is just pummeling him to just beating him. That there's that quiet confidence, those ones that need that crowd approval. That's not a confident thing, guys. The crowd approval is always nice. And if you get it, it's always nice to be recognized for something you've done good. But that's because you know you did it good. When I sent James my gut bomb, that I talked to John Brisson, a nutritionist, and I took my own stuff and all that, and I put it together in a combination of different immunities and made that to the epitome of what it was. And then he says to me, "Wow, that stuff's amazing. I'd like my friends to have." The first step in that was I knew it was amazing. I did it. And I'm proud of that. Yes, I put a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of energy. I put healing into that. I am damn proud of it. And it's a good thing. And I put that in there. Like, don't let them take that away. That's a awesome thing. And it's not something you need to run around screaming to the world. The ones that scream to the world, they're the ones that need attention, and they're willing to do it in any way. Look at Donald Trump. The guy's been on The Apprentice, and he's the big overarching murmur. And he's been on WWE looking like an asshole, getting beat up by wrestlers and getting, I don't know what all they did. And, it doesn't matter the situation. The idea is attention on me. I need this attention from you, or else I have no personal power myself. Take back your personal power.
Also realize that just proves right there how energetic attention is. When you give your attention, that's the belief plasma I talk about in my book. You're literally giving plasma to someone with your attention. That's why your consent is just a tokenized version of your attention. If you think about it, when you give your consent, whether it be through taxes or just through silence, even, what you're really doing is giving a tokenized version of your belief and your attention, and you're feeding it into that fire. And that's why the more of us pull our consent back, the more this magic will actually be considered black and will bounce back on them, because enough of us have said, I do not consent. This is not something that I'm going to participate in. It's really, really important. They require your participation for the magic to work. Otherwise, it's just violence. These guys are looking for something more than that. They're looking for your belief. They want to be able to funnel your belief and use it into different ways. It creates a whole different kind of skill set for them. It's a whole other level of commanding things. With that said, we've only got a few more minutes. I wanted to go over the FCC law. There's a section 704C in there that literally states that no local or state lawmaker is ever allowed to complain about the environmental effects of radio frequency from emissions. The reason why I'm bringing this up right now is because they've created a vortex, a bottleneck, where the only way anyone could complain would be through the FCC. Now, it's interesting because during the quarantine, no FCC employees FCC employees are still considered essential workers. And it would seem to me that if all this was legit and true, that we could force the any kind of FCC or any kind of telecommunication things to also stop during the quarantine, as we don't want to endanger everyone's life. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that installing telecommunications equipment during a pandemic is dangerous and irresponsible. A fast Candy Crush download does not justify an essential worker. We should urge Donald Trump that he needs to suspend all telecommunication upgrades until the pandemic is gone and the quarantine is lifted. I know this won't happen. It's because I understand what government really is. But there are other people out there that still don't know what government is. They're still under the impression that all this is real. It is real, but the very people that are pretending to protect you are actually the ones that hold the monopoly on its violence. And as long as they hold that monopoly, we are going to continue to give them their consent to do very, very, very bad things to us. And that's what we need to stop. I'm going to end the stream now so it stays under 2 hours. I really, really want to thank Ben. I got so many people begging me to have you back. And since I love talking to you, it sounded great to me. So I'm hoping we can do this more regularly. And I want to thank everybody
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody in the chat. Thanks you so much, guys, for giving us your energy. I wish we could keep talking, but hopefully Ben and I will be doing a lot more of these. So, Ben, if you want to say goodbye, now is the perfect time to do that.
Absolutely. James, you and I are like a cathode and anode, brother. Just wow. So I am 100% down. The one thing I want to put onto that is I'd like to look up the word munitions now. What exactly, and see what kind of thought? Because I mean, if electromagnetic weaponry, well, then wouldn't that fall under munitions?
Mm-hmm.
So if they're classifying as weaponry, boy, that's crazy. I love you guys. Thanks for listening and putting your energy into it.
Yeah, definitely, guys. There's a lot to your electrical current. Ben and I just want you to, we want you just to be fully seated in yourself. Ben and I, neither one of us want you to like one thing or not like another thing. We're firmly convinced that if you're fully seated in your adrenals, if you're fully seated, you're going to have empathy, and therefore you're going to have a guidance system that's going to lead you to treat other people nice. It's just built into your endocrine system. It's only when you've evacuated it, when you've called words like ego and pride bad, that's when Ben and I get worried, because when you've evacuated yourself, you're going to follow the hive. You're going to turn into a fucking drone, and we don't need any more drones. We need more humans. Humanity is not a virus. None of you guys are viruses. You're the immune system of the land. The land put you here to protect her. And those of you who are listening, she's going to give you all the magic. You're going to have all that power. So thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you real soon. All right, bye bye.